Okay, so can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So today we'll be talking about affordable housing on college campuses. So the agenda will go through a quick introduction of the topic, methodology, data analysis, conclusion, and any questions at the end that may arise throughout the presentation. We have time for that. So a quick introduction of the topic. So the cost of housing is significantly rising everywhere. That raises a concern for college students and their overall expenses associated with attending college and paying for housing. So affordable campus housing could come in and help alleviate a lot of that stress that a lot of college students may have on them. So the purpose of the primary study is to investigate if access to affordable housing can help students, can housing has an impact on academic performance and retention rates on college students. My research question I'm trying to investigate, how does access to affordable housing on campus impact academic performance and retention rates among college students? I have two hypotheses. The first is access to affordable campus housing significantly impacts the academic performance of college students. And then the other one is access to affordable campus housing significantly impacts the retention rates among college students. So for the methodology that I looked at, based on the research I'm doing, we're going to use a correlational research design. So we're going to examine the relationship between affordable campus housing and student outcomes. With that, we're looking at two different outcomes. So therefore, because we have two variables that we're not manipulating, there'll be no manipulation to those variables. That is how we have the correlational research design outcome. And then also too is because the relationship will either be a positive, a negative, or no non-existent relationship at all. So that's how you get the correlational research design. My design will also be comparative and not experimental. It's comparative because I'm comparing two different groups. I'm comparing the groups of students who live on campus versus students who don't live on campus. And I'm doing no manipulation to the independent variable, which is access to affordable housing. It's either you do have access to on-campus housing or you don't. So you're either living on campus or you're a commuter. My dependent variable would be the academic performance and retention rate. So continuation of methodology. So population would be 500 volunteers from a college at a Midwest university. Since I rarely work at a Midwest University college, I will just use the data available on my campus as it is readily available to me. And I'll identify that population using a stratified random sampling. With the random sampling, I'm not manipulating any of the anything. So therefore, that's how you get the stratified random sampling. I just have two subgroups. So either living on campus or not living on campus. And then from there, we're going to look at the effects of those two groups have on each other. Data collection will come from just campus resources. So I'll have resources too, such as like academic records, housing records. Since I'm using the university that I rarely work at, those are records that are available for me to view. So using that will help me utilize that. And then also all students who would like to participate, they will be sent a survey. It's volunteer based only again. So since I'm using the campus that I work with, I have all students' email. So an email will go out to all incoming students for the first time living on campus and or for the first time will be commuting to campus. So we'll keep sending it out until we get those 500 volunteers. So that way we can kind of get a good ratio about who is living there and who's living on campus. The starting survey will be just us asking them, are you living on campus? Are you commuting to campus? What are some things that you are prepared for the semester? What are some things that you're looking forward for the semester? At the end of the semester, same kind of thing. Where are you living at? How did your semester go? We don't want to overwhelm them with questions to maybe make some kind of bias happen. Just enough questions so where we can get a decent answer to where we're comfortable that we're keeping all biases at bay as much as we can. So again, some flexibility that may arise, that can arise from something like this. So we never know what can occur within the semester. So say someone's living situation changes. At first, they had a stable housing that they could commute from, but now they don't. That could be some threats to look into. And then also too, again, you don't want to repeatedly send out surveys to them. That's why we're just doing the start of the semester and the semester, because that repeated survey can be mix and biases arise. So my data analysis I'll be looking at. So for descriptive statistics, we're going to calculate the mean, median, and standard deviation. We're looking at like affordable housing, academic performance, retention rates. Statistical test will be a t-test. The test to see is there a difference between two groups be statistically significant. And that will be like, for example, the academic performance I'm looking at will be GPA and plus housing. So how's your GPA affected by your housing? Are you on campus or on campus or off campus? Level, and then also the level of measurement, we're going to be using ordinal, using a chi-square. So same thing with that is looking at, are you on campus? Yes or no? Things like that. Data collection, again, using the university resources that I have already available to me. So housing records, academic performance records, and retention rate. So readily seeing, did you come back? Yes or no? Your GPA, are you still utilizing housing on campus? Yes or no? In conclusion, if the relationship between affordable housing and student outcomes is found to be a positive one, then the findings could support a policy that can promote the availability of affordable housing options on college campuses. By addressing the financial challenge associated with the housing, educational institutions can then create a more supportive housing on their campus, whether it's students have, if you have family housing on campus, if you have, such as students who have children who are married, or students maybe who are need to have housing year round. Things like that can also foster a great academic system. And then we will have some time for some questions. If anyone has any that arose while presentation was happening.
I have a question. So one of your hypotheses is affordable housing and its impact on academic performance. And it looks like you're using GPA as the stand-in for academic performance. Why did you pick GPA? And are there other things that you could have looked at?
That's just how I'm defining the academic performance for this particular study. There are other studies who have used other ways to measure academic performance, but just to see where students stand at, where on the campus wise, that was the best use of that.
That makes sense. It seemed like that's pretty if you were to the casual eye, those that aren't academics, that's what everybody looks at, right? To really standardize or I guess calculate academic performances, first thing you go to is grades, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. Easy. Your ordinal using a chi-square, I thought that was really interesting and actually pretty brilliant. That's not something that I would have never thought. I know in class we thought about a chi-square, and I would hope to never see that again in my life, the chi-square. So kudos to you for mastering that. I don't necessarily have a question at this time. I just wanted to highlight that part of it. So,
and it's called Chi-Chi. Okay,
Chi-Chi.
Yeah. I think GPA. I think that's an interesting measurement that you were thinking of, but I would encourage you to think about completion time and how housing instability or stability affects how quickly people can make it through. Because I think that would be probably a little bit easier to get to than the GPA, because you're not, for various reasons, but that's pretty public as far as that data. So it might make it a little bit more accessible. And I know because when I was in school, when I never lived on campus, but I was always going part-time working. And so I always took a little bit longer and longer and longer, you know. Whereas I know other people who lived on campus, they had their own reasons and they were able to do things a little quicker, you know. So
Yeah, you gave me another avenue to consider and think about. That could be another limitation, as you said. What if I'm looking at GPA and looking at other avenues? So if that is all the questions, that's all we have for tonight. Thank you for joining me.